Welcome back to the channel, folks. Today I'm going to be covering the 5 things I really hate or dislike about my second generation Red Sea Reefer. I may even have a 6th item I want to discuss that's worth an honorable mention. But before we get into it, do me a favor, hit that like button and consider subscribing to my channel. So number 1 on my list is the Red Sea Reefer infamous or famous, whatever, Downflow Valve. So each of the Red Sea Reefers come with this Downflow Valve that can be adjusted to theoretically allow you to have a very quiet tank, right, with little to no gurgling sounds. However, adjusting this valve, although it produces very precise changes, it has just never been set and forget for me. I have never been able to hit the sweet spot, if you will. Perhaps I don't know. Maybe my return pump is inconsistent for some reason. I just don't know. Red Sea actually recommends that you adjust the downflow valve so the water level in your overflow sits just a hair below the secondary drain or that emergency drain. And this has just been nearly impossible for me to achieve. Within a few days of making small adjustments to get the water level just where I want it, it eventually starts drifting. And either the water level gets too low or it starts to get too high and overflows a little bit into the secondary drain. So because of this, I just kind of had to settle with just having a little bit of water always trickling over into the secondary drain. And, not only does this drifting have the ability to impact salinity, I think, it just, for the most part, is annoying. It adds to my maintenance routine, in particular after a water change. So once I complete a water change, I have to go back and spend 5 to 10 additional minutes fiddling with this downflow valve to get it set just right. And then I come back an hour later or so to make sure it's still stable and hasn't drifted too aggressively. But then again, within a few days, it's drifting anyway. So that's my number 1. Now the second thing I really hate about my Red Sea Reefer Generation 2 or G2 tank is the auto top-off setup. The reservoir is just too small. I could literally only make it 2 or 3 days before I had to fill up the little tank. It's just, it's just not sustainable. It's not a long-term solution. So I don't even know why Red Sea bothers with it. I've seen a few folks drill the little auto top-off reservoir and turn them into refugiums, so I suppose there may be some value to it. But to position the tank, you position on top of your sump, just kind of gets in the way of equipment and maintenance. So yeah, A for effort by Red Sea, but the execution is just failing. And so if you're going to get a tank, a Red Sea Reefer, just plan on getting a custom auto top-up solution set up for this tank. Now I would argue that this isn't as big of an issue or problem for the newer Red Sea Max tanks, which have been pretty... I think they have from the ones I've maintained, they have a pretty good auto top-off reservoir positioned directly behind the back wall of the display. So that size is a little bit better. It lasts a little bit longer. Still, though, they also use the gravity float system. So the Reefer and the Maxes use the gravity float. And if you've watched my no-budget reefing video, which showcases a Red Sea Max tank that I serviced, the auto top-off float actually stuck on me after it got dirty and covered in salt creep. And so as a result, it caused that tank to crash. The sump essentially ran dry. It didn't fill with auto top-off water, and salinity spiked. I'll link to this video here just in case you want to check it out. But it was an important lesson I learned. So overall, I just have no love for the Red Sea Reefer auto top-off setup. The reservoirs are, for the biggest issue, they're just too small. And they get in the way with how they try to position them. And then the gravity float system, it just has to be cleaned often. So it works well if you maintain it, but it's just something you always have to be cleaning. The third thing I hate about my Reefer G2 is the amount of spacing they provide you on each side of the sump. So if you're not careful, you may not have enough space for anything that needs to be clamped on or mounted to the side of the sump or on the rim of the sump. For example, I couldn't even fit a magnet on the right side of the sump to position my Tunzi or Tunes, Tunzi, whatever, auto top-off system. So to be fair, my sump is actually not quite centered in its space. I had to kind of shift it, or off center the sump so I could fit the mount of my Kessel gooseneck on the left side of the rim of the sump, which lights my refugium. So I had to kind of off center a little bit to just so I could squeeze that in. So it would be nice if they gave us like an inch or even 2 more inches, on either side of the sump for our magnets, our mounts, etc. And I would be even okay with sacrificing space on the right side of the cabinet or even the actual dimensions of the sump to accommodate this extra spacing. So the lack of space, it also makes it very challenging if you have any accidental spills to clean up any water that's got in that little tight area. Just expect it to be moist for a while unless you can finagle some kind of paper towel down in there. Those areas will take a while to dry up. So, that's another thing. It's just the sump spacing is not ideal in my opinion. Number 4, so next on my list, things I don't like or hate about the Red Sea Reefer G2. Stand ventilation, or the lack of ventilation in the stand. On the side where the sump lives, there's a little cutout at the top, and it's just not enough. It doesn't provide enough ventilation, in my opinion. And because of this lack of flow or ventilation, I actually chose to mount a fan on the top of my tank where the light fixture is, on top of the display for active cooling. So this is less attractive. It's not as appealing to have a fan up there. Normally I would run a small clip-on fan inside the cabinet within the sump, hook it to the side of the sump, let the active cooling happen in the sump, and kind of keep that mess out of sight. I just don't think it would work well with how enclosed the space is. It'd push air around it'd just be hot, warm air. I think I get a little bit better effect having it up top because there's just not enough ventilation or air circulation that could be possible in the sump underneath the stand. Now this may not be much of an issue for those of you running LEDs, and I did take a recent poll, and most of you are running LEDs, so you probably aren't dealing with the heat I'm dealing with metal halides. But if you run metal halides or even T5s, or even if you live in a warmer climate, some extra ventilation in the stand where the sump lives, I think would definitely be useful. So the 5th thing I don't like about my tank is I should have gone bigger. So after seeing how much I've spent on this tank, I wish I would have pushed myself just a little bit more to go a little bigger. So this is no fault of Red Sea, but it is true. It's something I dislike about my Red Sea Reefer G2, but it's due to my own decision making. When preparing to purchase the Red Sea Reefer, I would just push yourself to go as large as you can. I think the amount of money these tanks cost, to me it's an investment. So for me, I really would have liked a 5-foot tank to kind of fit my 5 to 10 year plan. If you're moving a lot and you're in an apartment, maybe you go smaller. But for me, I'm settled in a home. I plan to have this tank for 5 to 10 years. Having a 5-foot tank would have allowed me greater flexibility for what fish I could have kept. It's always a plus to have more water volume, right, for stability, more room in the sump to play around down there with. So I would have liked, probably the Reefer 525. I had the space where the tank is. It wasn't much more in cost. I think what happened is I became a little intimidated with the thought of moving this 5-foot tank into the home in the initial overwhelming setup, which really shouldn't play a factor in which tank you should go with unless you move a lot. I have no intention to move in the next 5 to 10 years, so it's a one and done thing for me, and I should have just gone a little bit bigger. Now, a bonus item that I have not really liked at all about this tank, or the experience of owning this tank, is what I would call warranty shenanigans. So first of all, I think it's odd to invest this much money in a product with with some degree of risk, right? That thousands of dollars in livestock, fish, coral, a flooded house. If a seam were to go out, the tank would suddenly begin leaking. That's a big risk. So to charge you extra to extend your warranty to 5 years, it just seems kind of odd to me. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. You get your 3-year warranty automatically. I just think that 5-year warranty should be standard, and I question why we have to pay extra for it. I think this strategy, as a consumer, it lowers my confidence in the product. And I've seen the stories, in the forums online, these tanks leaking. Not the generations 2 so much yet, cross our fingers, but generation 1, they leak, some of them. And on top of this, I was a little delayed in paying for the extended 5-year warranty, and right when I was about to pay it, I received a sudden offer in my email to extend the warranty for a new discounted price. So the timing of this offer seemed a little suspicious, right? Or maybe, maybe it's just a coincidence. I don't know. As a result, if you buy a new Red Sea Reefer, you may want to hold off on purchasing the extended warranty until you absolutely have to, as that may allow you to get a little invite, if you will, to extend the warranty for a cheaper price. So in short, the warranty system to me is a little odd. I dislike having to pay for the extra years, and I found it odd I had a sudden opportunity to extend the warranty at a discounted price as my window of opportunity to purchase that extended warranty was about to close. So those are the 5, well, perhaps 6 things I dislike or hate about my tank. In summary, on the flip side of things, I absolutely love the tank. And to this day, if I had to do it all over again, I would purchase a Red Sea Reefer again. But I would likely go a little bigger in tank size and shoot for that 5-foot tank. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. If you want to check out the progress of this tank, go look at my other videos. The tank is progressing quite well. We've got corals and fish in it. Appreciate you tuning in. Thanks so much. Happy reefing. We'll see you all in the next one. Peace.